Okay. Positive energy all the time. I'm back on my BS. You already know. As Choke No Joke say, you know what it is. All right, here we go. I'm going to try to behave myself. Rep your city, rep your city, rep your city. Back on my BS. Took a few hours off, laid around, uh, got some rest. The exercises is not a joke. The exercises is not a joke. I tell you that. It's not a joke. We got North Miami Beach, Florida in the building. We got San Jose. Everybody on both of my Facebook accounts, Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. I am representing Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, shout out to both of my Facebook accounts. Thank you all for your support. And let's get it. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Sometimes you got to hit it again while YouTube is constantly updating their servers so that they'll be ready to take all of this content they got. Salute to the king. Igazabir. Much respect. London in the building. London is a building. Reggae helped me connect to London. Reggae used to really be amazing. I wish we could get it back to how it used to be. Reggae for the Rasta man was a way of inspiration. It was encouragement for people to eat better. It was pushing the legalization of ganja. And it was the news media. Yeah, reggae was the news media for Rastas. All you had to do was listen to the reggae radio station, go to the local reggae record store, buy the music, and the brothers would always tell you what's going on. This is how we know what's going on. This is how our knowledge was increased before the internet era. So you could buy an album by Steel Post and you hear the brothers Handsworth Revolution, Handsworth. You're like, what the hell is Handsworth Revolution? And you hear them talk about Brixton and you hear them talking about the Babylon and Brixton and how they treating them in England. You can get Linton Kwesi Johnson. That's another one of my favorites. And Linton Kwesi Johnson, well, he was hard. He was hard. I don't know how. I know Muda Baruka was hard. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know how they pushed Lynn Kwesi Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Dude was hard. Lynn Kwesi Johnson was hard. I believe his drum and bass was better than Muda Baruka's. I'm talking about, hey, Lynn Kwesi Johnson. He was the man. So yeah, reggae used to keep us on what's going on. That's how I knew what was going on in England. The first time Steel Post came to America, they came to Chicago, and I was allowed to be security. It's one of the highlights of my life. I guess my life sucks. But no, that was the highlight of my life where the elder Rasta man said, Ramesses, I want you to be security for steel poles. They was brand new. So hardly nobody knew who they was. And I got to be security. Oh man, I was on 1,000. I wore my African robe, or my African cane. I had to be about, I was a baby. I had to be about 20. I had to be about 21. Man, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that I could be security for a reggae band from England. I was hyped up. A wise man, you know how I got to be wise? One thing that helped me be wise, he's the elder Rasta. They kept telling me, shut up, man, and listen. I had to shut up many years. You young people really don't know. You see me now as a big man, but you should have seen me as a little man. And hey, I came up, it was rough. I wish you all could experience that. You experienced the internet. No, when I was coming up and you sitting there and the elders talking, it was rough. They tell you, no, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like this. Right there. Not on the internet. So I had to, y'all know how I am. So I was still bucking at the elders. Eyes wide. Yeah, eyes wide too. But Eyes wide did say some revolutionary stuff, but Eyes wide, I like them for the lovers rock. I need your love more than just an hour. I need your love more than just a day, baby. So hold me close. So Oswald was fire, but we loved Oswald mostly for the lover song and for the music part more than the lyrics. The music was crazy because Oswald had a full horn section. Nobody had a horn section like that. They might got a couple horns, but nobody had a horn section like Oswald. They was like the most amazing reggae group because the band members was three of them. One played bass, one played one was a singer, and one was a guitar player. And all three of them could sing lead, unheard of. All three of them was the lead singer, especially the drummer. Imagine going to a reggae band and the singer is the drummer. Eventually, they started letting him get off the drums, and they got a replacement drummer to play while he would get up there and sing. But the first time, he would be on the drums singing the lead. Oh man, it was crazy. But they're like, they had the boom, 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 boom. Hey, man, like musically, whoa, 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 whoa. The horn section, keyboard. You know, we young, we got reggae bands. That's what we dream of. We dream, Exhibit. We young musicians, we dreamed. Oh, we dreamed of having a band like that. Oh God, if we could have had two saxophone players, a trombone player, and a trumpet, bruh, two keyboards, bruh, we would have went crazy. You're doing it super big. If you could get that kind of band together, oh my God. Oh boy. Because that's all as a young reggae artist, that's all we trying to see is how tight we could get the band. Like, can we get a keyboard player? Oh, can we get two keyboard players? Oh my God. And so to go see them, man, with a full horn section, that's why they was up here. Oswald and Burning Spear, because they had the horns. Burning Spear and Oswald had the horns. That's what made them a little bit over Black Uhuru and all the rest of them. They had the horns, man. You can't sound as good as them. You can't, you know. Steel Pulse was great, had a nice big band, but they couldn't sound like Oswald or Burning Spear. Burning Spear and Oswald was the only full sound when you go to reggae. It's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The horns make a big difference. That's how I got in reggae, because they wanted me to come. Me and my man Bird. Bird was a light-skinned dude with dreadlocks. He was like albino with dreads. I don't think he was albino, but almost. He was almost like white. But he was a black dude. Bird was a black dude, but he looked like a white dude. But he was a black dude. And he had long blonde dreads, and he was real white looking, but he was black. He was very confusing. He was ghetto as hell, too. I mean, Bird, that was my man. He played sax and I played trumpet. I wonder where the hell he at. So tonight, here I go getting in trouble again. I'm going to talk about historical confusion based on when you were born. Right now, I'm living in a time period where people are creating all these new philosophies about Black people. Black people is Native Americans. Black people is Moors. Black people is this and that and this and that and this and that. And they're digging up information and they're slapping that on Black people, which is misguiding, because there's a lot of different Black information. So anytime you pick one specific information about melanated people and try to stamp that on the whole group, that's where you're wrong, because all of those stories are pretty much accurate. There is no one thing. So they'll find this story and then they try to cancel slavery, which is ridiculous. So you see them trying to cancel out slavery. You see them trying to cancel out the transatlantic slave ships, trying to act like Africans wasn't brought here. Just because you found out that there were Black natives. But just because there's Black natives, it doesn't mean there wasn't Black Africans. As a matter of fact, the Black natives and the Black Africans are historically known for going to Florida and fighting together. This is already historically known. So I don't know what's up with these so-called people teaching. Well, I know what's up with them. They're too young. We have people that's too young to be teaching. They're too young. They're just talking. So the further you go, the more you got to make stuff up. The last Black people in America that got any idea of the true history was born in the mid-50s, from the mid-50s to like the mid-60s. if you wasn't born in the United States from the mid-50s to the mid-60s, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't. You don't know what you're talking about. You're guessing. You're regurgitating the information. Yeah. Because there's nobody that was in Alabama in the 60s that would deny slavery. Period. Because you could see it then. By the time you get to the mid-70s, you couldn't see it anymore. But if you went to Alabama, late 50s, 60, 61, 62, 60, Mississippi, Alabama, oh, you wouldn't have denied slavery at all. No. I'm born in 1958. If you wasn't born up to around 1965, you can't, why would I listen to you? You don't know anything. You don't have what we call firsthand information. You're just talking. You're a book reader. You're pulling your information out of a book or something. You don't know what you're talking about. If you wasn't on these highways, traveling where you had to get off the road before it get dark, making sure you cleared those sundown towns before 4:30 in the evening, making sure you pull over at Holiday Inn, making sure you only go to standard gas stations, to only go to Holiday Inn. If you wasn't here for that, and you're trying to tell other people about history, one of the worst things we got going on is somebody reading something about history, secondhand and third hand, and then teaching what they learned secondhand and third hand, because any real scholar know that one book is not going to give you the information. You would have to read a lot of different books, and all of these books are not even agreeable. All the scholars don't agree, and all of the books show different types of history. What we got now is we got people reading a book, you born in whatever, and you going on social media teaching. You born on social media teaching. And you ain't even seen Rakim live on Rhapsody in the Basement. You even go back that far. You know what I'm saying? You ain't even seen KRS-One and Rakim on Rhapsody or BET. You know what I'm saying? You ain't seen them on Yo MTV Raps or BET The Basement. You ain't even seen them. And you talk about history. And you ain't even seen KRS-One on the mic. Like you ain't even seen that when that happened. You wasn't even here when that dropped. But you're going to try to tell me about some Moors and all this here. And I'm like, listen, what year was you born? What year was you born? Who is you? What year was you born, shorty? One thing about black people that I say that's true is we are not black, we are brown. Why would I listen to you? You don't even know what black means. You're a baby. Black had nothing to do with our color. So you're a baby, stay in a baby's place. You don't know what black is. Do you know why we start calling ourselves black? No. So how you going to speak on something that you don't know where it came from? You don't even know where black came from. And there are absolutely black people, and there's purple people. There's black people that's so black, they're purple. So there are black people. So when you say we are not black, that's also incorrect. That's absolutely incorrect. There's black people in Africa. Black. There are black people in Africa, shorty. So when you say we, you couldn't be talking about them. So black people ain't got nothing to do with the color of your skin. So you as a young person jumping in the middle of history wasn't here talking out of line. Why did we start calling ourselves black? We started calling ourselves black by default. There was no such thing as black people. This is the facts. This is how we became black. This is how we became black Americans. In American history, when the immigrants came over here, when you get like to the 50s, listen, your mama, this is real knowledge. When you get to the 50s, like Chicago, New York, you had communities, right? So you had Italian communities, Greek communities, Irish communities, like that. In those communities, the Italian boys would grow up, meet a young Italian girl, have a baby, have an Italian family. The Greek boy would grow up, meet a Greek girl in the community, have a baby, have a Greek family. But eventually, your mama, the Italian boy, just like any girl, so the girl he liked, she might be Irish. So the Italian boy get with the Irish girl, have a baby, right? The Polish guy get with the Italian girl, have a baby. The Italian girl get with the German guy, have a baby. So when the news media described the different groups in America, they said Italian American, Greek American, Polish American. They had to figure out what to call black people. So the news media, not Jesse Jackson, that's false. The news media, which was right, that was smart, they said, what we're going to call the brown people, the Negroes. So let's call them African American. So the reason we were called African American had nothing to do with no conspiracy or anything. It was just basically a way to identify us like they was identifying everybody else. Everybody else was Japanese American, Chinese American, Italian American, German American. So they said, let's just call them African American because we don't know what country they're from. So because they didn't know which country we was from, they called us African American. Now people will say, no, they didn't want you to know you was from here. White Americans didn't know none of this knowledge. White Americans didn't know the knowledge that people saying they should know. Like when you go see these white American books that break that down, white people didn't read those books back then. So there was no conspiracy of white people to stop you from knowing who you was because white people didn't know much either. Nobody in America knew much. Everybody came from farms and ranches and shit. They wasn't college educated. So the idea that the white man was all this smart and he did all this espionage and tricks, that's a lie. Nobody in America had any knowledge. Nobody in America had any knowledge about race, ethnic, none of that. Nobody knew none of that. Nobody. In the schools across America, you had geography, just to show you where different places was. No talk about the people. You had reading, writing, and arithmetic, geography. They eventually changed that to new math, reading, writing, science, geography, social studies. That was it. Nobody knew none of this. Nobody. So the idea that the whites knew everything and ran a game on us is a lie. The whites didn't know nothing either. Didn't nobody know nothing. Nobody knew nothing. So check this out, your mama. So they call them Irish American, Italian American, German Americans. But when the whites start mixing, they not German Americans no more. Because if I'm a German, me and my wife, but my son go marry a Polish woman, they kids ain't German or Polish. So now when the whites started mixing, they couldn't call them Polish Americans no more. They couldn't call them German Americans because they was intermixing. You can see that in one of the gangster, what is it, Casino, where the one guy, he ended up going with the Jewish woman, but he was Italian. They didn't like that. So they got to breeding, so they was no longer Polish Americans. They were no longer Italian Americans. They were no more German Americans. So they became white. That's how white people became white. When all the different ethnic groups from different countries started mixing, they was no longer Germans. They was no longer Polish. They was no longer Italians. They was white. So the news media, if they white Americans, what the hell's you finna be? Then you finna be black Americans. And the reason we was black Americans, because brothers started saying black power. And the reason we embraced black, because they was trying to say black was ugly. They was trying to say nappy hair was ugly. They was trying to say, get out that sun before what? Before you get what? Too black. This is what your great grandmama, some of them used to say to the children outside playing. They would say, get out that sun before you get too black. And they began to make black negative. So when we think they wanted to take black and make it negative, we took it and made it positive. The hell with y'all. We took black and made it positive. Somebody say, prove that. I can prove it, because guess what else we took and made positive? We took bad and made it positive. Yes. Bad became positive. Man, that's a bad car, man. Man, those some bad shoes. Bad became positive. Black became positive. We took all the words and used them the way we want to use them. Now, when people say black is negative, black is death, that's a damn lie. Black is power. Give me any more, I'll embarrass him and run him off the stage. And I don't even have to say nothing. The more I can say black mean this and that and that, I can get on stage, have some yellow paint, some white paint, some red paint, some green paint, and blue paint. And if I take all that paint and dump it in one bucket and mix it up, what color is it going to turn? Black, which means what? Black is the dominance of all colors. Black is the dominant color. Black is when you put all colors together. What color do you get? Checkmate on the Moors. Their philosophy. Noble Drew Ali. That's my little son. I step on his whole philosophy. Black is the dominance of all colors. If you, right now, you think I'm lying, take a marker and get on a piece of paper and make a red circle, then put yellow on top of it, then green, then blue. It's going to turn black. Black is the dominance of all colors. Yeah, black means dominant. Black means all y'all come from us. See, the yellow man can't have a black man. The white man can't have a black man. The red man can't have a black man, but the black man can have all of them. So black means dominance. And so where my mother and them say, come out that sun, boy, comb your hair, comb your nappy ass head. Did I listen to her? Look at me. Look at me. Did I not break the rules? Because they say, comb that hair, boy, nappy hair, nappy this, nappy that. Disrespect your hair that God gave you. So let me get this straight. You say God is perfect. God is everything. And God gave me this hair. So you saying God messed up our hair? So God's stupid, huh? God should have gave us straight hair. Is that what you're saying? You saying your God that you say is perfect, the great God, made a mistake with our hair? So black people back then used to say, boy, get out that sun before you get too black. Boy, pull your lips in. Y'all didn't grow up back then. Comb your nappy ass head. All that come from slavery. So all that slave mentality, we took it and we flipped it. And we said, with your bad self, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Because people tried to shame us by calling us black. Now, Noble Drew Ali, he had been washed up. His philosophy is washed up. The Moors' philosophy is trash. That shit's washed. They don't know what they're talking about. Noble Drew Ali is 100% wrong. Black is the dominant. Space is black. Outer space is black. Outer space is black. What color do the Moors think space is? Look in the sky at night. It's black. It's only blue when some light mixed with it. You take away the light, it's jet black. So what? The outer space means death because it's black. So Noble Drew Ali should have shut his black ass up. He didn't know what he was talking about. And we ain't trying to dress like no girl, trying to dress like, Nick Cannon. I'm just saying it with all due disrespect. We not listening to no old school Nick Cannon looking nigga. But whatever. Bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm not listening to nobody think he Alibaba in the 20 Thieves. I mean, I ain't diss the dude's outfit because somebody used to dress like that. So much respect. I'm just saying for me, Big Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? Big Pharaoh. Yeah, so black is a positive thing, right? So let me get back to what I was saying. So we got a bunch of young people now. They saying all different type of stuff. They saying, like I seen this dude. This what brought this on. I seen this dude, and he's saying he'll sue. And ICE arrested a bunch of people that they identify as Sue. And he's saying he is Sue. And he's saying he the original people here. But then this on Don Lemon's Instagram, I went on there and say, my great grandmama Sue. My great grandmama Sue. And then I said, they whitewashing Native Americans because this guy really wasn't no Sioux. He was a European Sioux. He was white and Sioux. He wasn't no Sioux. He was a half a white man. Facts. On that talking about he a Sioux where they stealing our culture because anybody know that the Native Americans was beige, red, dark brown, and black. Anybody know that? The different tribes. There was no high yellow looking tribe except the Eskimos. But the Eskimos was more of a yellow. They didn't call them Eskimos, but as tribes came down, right, as tribes came from Incas, Mayans, right, as Incas and Mayans and different people came here, they became tribes up here. But they really was from north of America and south of America. So those people they call Native American, those is Aztecs, Incans, Mayans that came up here and became little groups. You know what I'm saying? Like okay, you got Bloods, right? But then you got the Rolling 60s, you got these Bloods, you got that Bloods. Okay, it's the same for them. Yeah, they Incas, but once they come up here, they become Rolling 60s, they become this one, they become that one. They become different types of Incas, right? Right? So they become different types. So you definitely had black ones here and you had red ones. So these people say they was Sioux. No. My great grandmother's Sioux. That's why I'm red. That's why I'm red. Because the Native Americans, most of the Native Americans, the biggest tribes, they match, you always match what? The land. And down south, they got red dirt. If y'all probably been down there, they got red dirt. And the red looking ones like us, that's where we come from. When I used to go to Alabama, we got red soil. But people say, well, if you know that your great grandmother is a Sioux, why you don't identify as a Native American? Because everybody been sleeping with everybody. That's just my great grandmother. That's not her husband. Her husband wasn't the same thing she was. So my great grandmother and her husband had my granddaddy. My granddaddy wasn't no pure Sioux no more. He was an African and Sioux. And then my grandmother on my mother's side had my mother. And if you see my grandmother, she looked kind of Native American, African, right? Mixed with my grandfather. Then on my father's side, you see a little Native American and a whole lot of African. And so I'm basically African and Native American. So some people will say, well, you said it was black Native American tribes over here. Exactly. But those black Native American tribes, I said they came from where? From South America. And how did they get to South America? Where did they come from? They came from Africa. So there's just because you could be African and not be connected to slavery, because Africans came over here before white people. Africans been over here. So when you hear brothers say, well, the Moors been over here, the Moors was Africans. The Moors brothers like to play games. The Moors was Africans from North Africa that originally fought with Hannibal. And because one of them wanted to sleep with Hannibal's daughter, he wouldn't let them. That's when they split off and became Moors. But they was a part of Hannibal's army. They was a part of Hannibal's army in East Africa. That's who they originally was. And they never became Moors. The whites called them Moors. The Moors never called themselves Moors. When they went up to Spain, the Spanish called them Moors because the word Moor means black. Black or Moor. So when you hear the Moors bragging about being a Moor, they didn't even name themselves Moor. White people named them Moors. Yeah, white people named them. They was not Moors until they went to Spain. And the Spanish called them Moors. They act like they called themselves Moors. No. False information. And so I started to think about when I was a kid and we used to go to Alabama. And when I used to go to, if you would have went to Alabama and Mississippi in the 60s, there's no way you would doubt slavery. All this talk about that people talking, that's because time has changed and the scenery has changed and the environment has changed. So when you go to Mississippi, you go to Alabama now, You are not going to see what you would have saw in the 50s, in the early 60s, all the way to the 70s. If your ass would have went to Alabama when I was going as a kid, there is no way in hell you would deny slavery, or would you deny Africans. What about the Murs, native to America? Nobody was native to North America. Nobody was native to North America, and nobody was, and a lot of people was not in Africa. A lot of people was on Atlantis and Mu. And when Atlantis and the Mu sank, some people came. But America and Africa, both of those places, only had civilizations around the outskirts. Ancient civilizations in Africa and in what you call the United States were small groups that lived around the outside. And they were nomadic because Daniel, back in those days, people didn't set up stationary too much. Every now and then you would have a group set up stationary and build great nations, but they would fall. But a lot of people was transient. Man began to realize you could survive better if you could move your whole group, so that if a bunch of tornadoes keep coming through here, why would you just stay there? So ancient man seen that people before him was getting wiped out, so they started building their nations where the whole nation could move. Not like our stupid ass now. We stay right where it keep flooding. We stay right where it keep tornadoes. We stay right where the hurricanes keep coming. See, in ancient time, they would have been left Florida. They would have packed up. Once they seen Florida keep getting hit like that, they would have moved up north some. So ancient people lived on the outskirts. So nobody lived in Central Africa. Look, I don't care what nobody told you. If they show you any ancient tribe, they was not all over that country. They was in a section. And everybody lived in a section where the wildebeest didn't run. It used to be millions and millions of wildebeest, right? And the yellow wildebeest have a migration route. Y'all believe somebody lived in the middle of their migration route? No, in ancient time, there was areas in Africa that wasn't none there but animals. And there might be a small group of people try to live there in a little place where it's trees where they would be safe. But you didn't have no big civilization when you got millions of elephants and millions of wildebeest and millions of giraffes. See, they're not telling y'all it used to be millions and millions and millions of giraffes and lions and shit. A pride of lions would be 100, 200. Yes, a pride of lions would easily be 100 of them, 200 lions. Because you need that many lions if you got millions and millions of elephants, millions and millions of wildebeest. So the Central Africa was all wild animals. Nobody didn't live there. Nobody lived in the center. Now that they moved to the center, tell me they ain't destroying everything. The animals is dying. The land is getting ruined because they never lived there. Nobody lived in Central United States. I got proof. Watch this. If America had people living all over America, right? If people lived all over America, right? Why did they have to build trains and go and shoot all the buffalo? Why did they have to shoot all the buffalo? Y'all believe people lived out there while them buffalo was at? No, they shot all the buffalo so that they could live out there. Nobody lived out there. Nobody lived in the middle of America. They built the railroad and went out there and shot all the buffaloes and made it so that they could live out there. They documented it. Then when they shot the buffalo, then they moved out there and set up cattle ranching and stuff like that. Right? Because look at this picture. So who lived out there then? Nobody. You couldn't live out in the middle of where the buffaloes was at. You couldn't live out there. You'll be sleeping at night. You'll hear something sound like thunder, and it'll be like how many thousands of buffaloes running that way. They're going to smash everything you got. So people lived up against the mountains, up against where there's tall hills. People didn't live nowhere flat. Because, the animals ain't going to just run over the mountain. They're going to own the flatlands. Nobody lived in the flatlands. Man now moved in the flatlands and what? It's flooding. It's tornadoes. Because you wasn't supposed to live there. You're not supposed to live in the flatlands. So back to what I was saying. So you got young people confused, but they wasn't here. They haven't been to Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia in the 60s. If you would have went, like I did as a kid, to Alabama in the 60s, Georgia, Mississippi, you would have no questions about slavery. You would have no questions about what's going on in this country. You would know for a fact. Because if you would have been going to Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia in the early 60s, late 50s, all through the 60s, you would have seen Black Africans and brown Native Americans, red Native Americans living together. You would have seen them. You would have seen the descendants from Africa and the Native Americans. They lived together. Because the 5 white Native Americans sold out the brown and the black and the red ones. Sold them into slavery. So they don't be clear when they say Native Americans, they don't clarify that there's 5 white nations that went along with the white man. They sold their own people right along with the blacks. Native Americans had African slaves. Facts. Look it up. Native Americans had descendants from Africa as slaves. Those slaves they had were not Native Americans. That's a fact. And when a white man made some of them Native Americans move, they took their slaves with them. Look it up. They made their slaves walk while the Native Americans was on horses and stuff. They walked their slaves with them. The white man said, we're going to take this, we're going to put y'all on a reservation. A lot of the Native Americans took their black slaves to the reservations with them. Look it up. Look it up. And then you had Native Americans that worked with the black slaves. So now, when you got Native Americans, right, and you got African slaves working together, everybody know about them going to Florida and fighting together and then trying to go to South America. Yeah, I'm talking about the Trail of Tears. Yeah, they took their slaves with them. But the Trail of Tears wasn't the only one. They marched them a lot of times, but that's the most famous one. But look, if I'm a black man, I'm an African, and I'm in Florida with some Native Americans, because it show you the Native Americans and Africans fought together. That's all historical facts already. Down in Florida. They moved to Florida, and then they tried to go to South America. They tried to go to Central America. If same way in Egypt with the Hebrew Israelites in Egypt, same story. So you telling me that let's say I'm a red Native American brother, and I'm chilling at our location, and I'm single, and I see a fine ass African descended woman. You telling me I'm not finna sleep with her and have no babies? Because a lot of this stuff don't be no street stuff. Because you're trying to act like a man ain't gonna sleep with a woman. So when you start talking all this purity, that's phony. Ain't no way you know pure nothing. Because a man gonna sleep with a woman if he like her. And all that purity shit gonna be out the window. You cannot tell me that the black Egyptians wasn't sleeping with the black Hebrew Israelites. Tell that to somebody else. I'm the realest alive. I don't do make-believe. I only do real stories. So now when you try to pick out something you're a clown. Because you're trying to say in your family, the men only slept with a certain woman forever. And you this. And every man in your lineage only slept. You a Hebrew, and you try to tell me that every man in your lineage, he made sure he found a Hebrew woman to have sex with. Right. Why that ain't holding up now? Because all you brothers is sleeping with the first woman you like, and you don't know what she is. How many of y'all checked y'all woman's lineage before you got her pregnant, before you made her your queen? You checked her lineage? You check lineage? Because I ain't never checked no lineage in my life. I ain't never asked her what her lineage. I asked her a phone number and her address. I ain't never had no babies based on their mama's lineage. All that sounds phony to me. My children is whatever their mama and all them people was, and whatever my mama and daddy and all these people was. That's what my kids is. Whatever everybody in my family mixed down to me was, and whatever everybody in their mama family was that mixed down to them, that's what my children is. A whole bunch of different people. Yeah, that's what mine is. Mine ain't no specific nothing. Mine ain't no specific nothing. But what's going to happen is through those mixtures, there's going to be one particular group that might show up more. And so let's say all your families, this man like this woman, this man like this woman, this woman like this man, all the way back, great-grandparents, great, all the way back. But it just so happened that in their mixes, a lot of them people was descendants of Hebrew Israelites. So now, for some reason, you feel like a Hebrew Israelite. That's because out of 100% of the mixing, it's like 60% and up Hebrew Israelite. Not 100. But more than 50%. So that's why you feel like that. It's more than 50% of them was from the lineage that started Islam. That's why you lean towards Islam. Because a lot of the people, bloodline, that been mixing through your mama and daddy and great mama, all them, a lot of them is in that lineage. So you're going to lean that way. So whatever way you leaning, if it's natural and you sticking with it, that's because there is a lot of that DNA in there. You're definitely that. You're definitely the tribe of Shabazz. There ain't no if, no ands, nothing. But you're not 100% pure. Because people say, well, why you got Egyptian name? I definitely got Egyptian bloodline. But I'm not no pure Egyptian. I'm not. I got Sioux, white, Scandinavian, all kind of blood DNA in there. That's just what it is. I just got enough DNA to make my consciousness lean towards Kemet. That's how y'all got to look at it. You got enough DNA for your conscious to lean a certain kind of way. And that's how I look at you. When you tell me you're a Hebrew Israelite, I look at you as like, oh, you got a whole bunch of Hebrew Israelite DNA. If you tell me you're a Muslim, you got a whole bunch of that DNA. That you got a lot of that DNA. So you're 100%, you're that for sure. Because you are whatever most of your DNA, whichever direction that leans in, that's what you are. That's why you could be a Hebrew Israelite, meet a woman, have a son, and he don't want to be a Hebrew Israelite. You know why? Because now the DNA didn't change because his mama has got other stuff. So now when you had the baby, that Hebrew Israelite DNA is no longer the majority with your son. So your son ain't feeling it. You see what I'm saying? Your son not feeling it. Your son not feeling Kemet, or your son not feeling this or that. Why? Because now it's a different mixture. They not you. You would have had to been fortunate enough to get with a woman that's got a lot of that DNA for that to stay like that. So I would have to get with a woman that's got a lot of DNA from Kemet, didn't have the children, then they would identify with Kemet. But I don't be checking women's DNA. I be checking their panties, you know what I'm saying? I don't give a damn what she is. If she fine, it's finna pop off. I'm not doing this weirdo stuff where I gotta cling to any type of situation. But I wanted to talk to this because I feel like Black people that did not go to Alabama and Mississippi and stuff in the late 50s and through the 60s, I don't believe that they really got a good grasp on their history in this country. And I don't think it's nothing they fault, but I don't think my children could ever see things like I seen them because they did not go to Alabama in 62, 64, 60. They wasn't there. And going to Alabama in the 60s, it do something to you. When you go see it, because when you go somewhere, the whole environment is a certain kind of way. Facts. The whole environment is a certain kind of way. Like Black people that grew up, that was like 8, 9, 10, 11 in segregation. And even in the North, what they seen, if you didn't see that, you could never really understand where they coming from. Like they know certain stuff for sure. The younger people off of Instagram and off of social media is teaching y'all, and y'all adapting information, but it's not based off of nothing you've seen or nothing. It's just based off of somebody talking. It's not based off of nothing you really seen and experienced. So you start to get lost. They can tell you anything. They can tell you anything. How you know? You have to be able to see the remnants of this situation. Even in modern times, let's take the Rodney King situation. When they had the riots in Rodney King, the Blacks that was there that seen that, especially the young ones, they got a perspective on America that if you didn't see that, you don't got. So imagine me. Not only did I see the segregation and stuff in Alabama, I'm a Black Power baby. I'm the riots. Yeah. I'm a riots baby. I seen the riots. Yes. I seen the riots from when they got rid of, when they hurt MLK, when they unalive. I seen that. I seen that as a shorty. So imagine going to Alabama and seeing the remnants of slavery and living in Chicago and seeing the remnants of the riots. If you don't see it, It don't affect your mind like that. Right, the Rodney King riots, right? But you see the difference between the Rodney King riots and the riots in the 60s is the Rodney King riots was LA. The riots in the 60s was the whole United States. Let that sink in. Take Rodney King, Michael, all over the country. Imagine that. And this why Donald Trump need to calm down, because the system had to bow down. They don't want y'all to know that the system had to bow down. Because as fast as they burn up some over here and the fire department run over here, they burnt up some over there. You run over there, they couldn't control it. They're not God or nothing. They was defenseless. Right now, the United States is totally defenseless. If the people start acting a fool, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. ICE, the military, nobody will be able to stop it. Listen, nobody will be able to stop these people. Trump needs to use a more softer approach. The approach he uses, it's not going to work. He privileged. He don't know. He was privileged. So he was sheltered from the riots. He had no idea. That's why the founding fathers told him, of the people, for the people, by the people. You have to be a good leader and you have to work for the people. Once you start going against the people, you don't run nothing.